You're listening to the Non-Del Influencers Podcast, brought to you by First Funding. Join host Matt Coles as he delivers powerful conversations to help non-delegated lenders succeed and scale in today's market.
All right, what a day for another Non-Del Influencer Podcast. Very excited today to have Alex Temple, partner with Mitchell Sandler. Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to join this podcast.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you are based in Virginia, right?
I am, and right outside of DC in the DMV.
Oh, nice. Little activity out there, I'm sure, on a regular basis for you.
Yep.
So you've been with Mitchell Sandler now for how long?
I am relatively new to the firm. I've been with firms, like Mitchell Sandler and with this team at Mitchell Sandler for a combined about 5 years, but relatively new to the firm after exiting a service provider role previously.
Nice.
I guess it's been about 4 months now, but very new.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about how did you fall into this? I always like to hear people's origin story of how they fell into the mortgage type of business. And you're on the sidelines of the mortgage business, but you got your knee deep into it. How did you get into this?
Yeah, isn't that funny? I feel like we all fall in, and then it's like a sticky trap at the bottom. Nobody leaves.
Well, I was a janitor at a broker's office. That's how I got my start. So.
That's so funny. I didn't know that. So I actually, my husband is from the area. I'm from Ohio originally. I came to DC for law school, but one of my husband's really good friends' fathers was the founder of a large mortgage company here in DC. And as I was really looking at what I was going to do post law school, mortgage was not on my radar. Again, I feel like, as many of us say, but they were sort of looking for in-house help. The LO comp rule, which is, obviously a hot topic today, but it had really just Reg Z and the CFPB's version of the comp rule had just really hit not that long ago. Everybody's sort of trying to figure out what that meant, and they were looking for some help. So I decided to join and roll up my sleeves and get knee deep in regulation. Again, I don't know why I made the decision, but I have just followed the stream as it's flowed since then and haven't left.
Life is a flat line, isn't it? We were talking about MLO comp 12 years ago, and here we are again today, another hot topic.
Yeah, that's right.
So, one of the things, I actually just did a presentation with an investor this morning. We were talking about that broker to banker transition. And I think maybe one of the misconceptions that I hear quite a bit for the shops that want to move from broker to banker is, the compliance, it's cost too much, it's too complicated. I mean, you guys really do a great job of providing kind of I don't want to call it banker in a box because everything's kind of unique for what kind of shop you want to run, but the solutions have definitely become easier to obtain, right?
Yeah, they have. And, I think more than anything, there's a lot of mystique around what is required to be fully compliant in the mortgage lender space. Whether intentional or not intentional, a lot of the rules are built with gray areas that people just it's not easy for a layperson who's not used to reading laws and regs to understand what's required. Yeah. And I think it's scary. And obviously the landscape for lenders is getting more complicated outside of just regulations, the technology we use and how those technologies are evolving and layering on top of each other and how that impacts compliance risk. And the landscape is getting more and more complicated. The good news is, like you said, there are firms out there, including Mitchell Sandler, that are staying on top of what's required. And we are building programs in the background that are sort of plug and play and help people stay abreast of, what's coming. How does this impact you? And that's not to say, again, it's ever evolving and it's complicated, but it's really about making sure you partner with the right people who understand,
The mortgage industry is infamous for making a statement, not a rule, right? A guidance, I guess is what you'll call it. And then everyone gets the chance to interpret it how they wish.
And sometimes statements are made like in passing at a conference. Sometimes they're put out in supervisory highlight. You're right.
Or put out on Twitter or whatever. So yes, a lot of things happen in our industry. One of the things that's been a topic of conversation a lot recently has been MLO comp, right?
Yep.
We knew that there were some rule changes coming. I think it's up for discussion or guidance or open for commentary right now. And I think what we do in our business is we assume we know what it's going to look like when it's done. And we are, in my opinion, pretty far away from any final regulation or any change being enacted. What's your feeling, and what are you seeing on your side of it?
Yeah, I think this is where people get nervous is, these big shifts, because it is such a complex landscape. When you add a new layer or make a big change to a regulation, that can mean quite a bit of time and money, sort of redirecting the ship, trying to get yourself back compliant or understand the rules and how they're evolving, right? So LO comp rule was, there was a rule submitted to the OMB, or a notice submitted to the OMB that they're going to be looking at the LO comp rule. What was really scary is in the title, it said semicolon rescission. And that was not the case. They submitted 5 rules for review at the same time. All of the other rules looked like they were going to be revised, but the LO comp rule specifically said rescission. Do we end up with a full rescission, a partial rescission, or some sort of revision rather than rescission? Nobody knows at this point.
And what does that timeline look like? Like, we get this big scary announcement, and then is it a year? Is it 2 years? Could it change upon administration changes? What does it look like?
It could certainly change upon administration, and it most certainly would actually change if there was administrative change. I would say, again, nobody knows, and that's not a super satisfying answer. But the way the CFPB is operating, obviously, we all know there were some major governmental pullbacks overarching outside of just the CFPB, but impacting the CFPB as well. And while that could mean it slows things down because, the CFPB is operating with a smaller team, it could also mean that they've sort of narrowed scope and are getting really specific about what they're looking at, and we could see a really fast timeline. So I don't know is the short answer. I don't know how quickly we're going to do this. I would say within the year, certainly, is my estimate or my best guess. But exact timelines left to be unseen. But I will say, from my perspective and from reading the commentary out there, talking to other industry experts, a full rescission of the LO comp rule is not what we want to see. That would put us in a regulatory gray area in many places, and specifically impacting, non-del and broker space. It would put us in a very uncertain land when it comes to things like LO comp, and make, traditional even employment relationships and pay structures untenable. So
it would also, sorry, Alex, it would also, in my opinion, it would also think about the investors and the technology that they've built around the compensation rules and what that would look like, and unwinding all of that, and who's going to be the first. It's not going to be clean, right? Whatever that looks like in the future, it's just not going to be a clean break at some point. The too much tech has been built over the last 10 years that builds around what we have to do today, that it going away tomorrow is not going to be unwound in 24 hours.
That's 100% right. And there are so many areas where the comp rule could improve. There's areas where we could see competitive advantage, and ways where we could really streamline and clean things up, what you can vary compensation for, when you can reduce an LO's compensation based on errors and those types of things, or for competitive reasons. I mean, there's a lot of room for improvement, but a full rescission would not be an improvement.
I'm so glad you said that, because where there's no impact is going to be made is by people screaming and yelling about it on social media. Get involved, right? Get involved. Go out. You're in DC. There's local chapters as well. MBA does a fantastic job of advocacy. Wherever you want to be an advocate for in our industry, make your voice heard. Don't complain about it on social media. Nobody sees that, right? So
the MBA does an awesome job, and like you said, I feel like mortgage for there's a lot of positive and negative things to be said about the mortgage industry. A big positive, there's so many advocacy groups who are loud, they're active, and like you said, they're looking for participants, and there are plenty of places that you can get involved. So certainly do so.
Awesome. Well, you did say something that is also a big part of conversation, which was this idea that the CFPB has kind of lost its teeth, right? And or is not an overarching, eye on our industry anymore. But from when I talk to people, it's, people that are much smarter than me, a lot of that weight is now falling back into the states, right? The state auditors and the state requirements. What are you seeing on that side of it?
Yeah, it's falling on them, and they're picking up the torch and they're running with it. And we've seen this before. This is not our first rodeo. The last time that Trump was in office, the last Republican, these things are very predictable in a certain sense, although I don't think we predicted what's happening now. But, last time we were in this environment, we saw the states become very active. We saw them become active in ways that we did not want them to be active. Picking up and running with enforcement of rules that they don't fully understand, that they don't traditionally enforce, things like fair lending and redlining, things like LO comp that are rather complex and, again, are not traditionally in their purview, but that they did attempt to enforce actively last time around. What I'm seeing this time is definitely a ramp up in, you sort of feel like a crackling energy. You're starting to see the states put out, rules of their own on things like AI, on things like data privacy and security. Everybody's starting to, ramp up their purview and really build out parameters around what they expect lenders to do. And what I anticipate to see is more and more enforcement actions, more and more, not only, requests for examination, but aggressive action by the states. Already I've seen things that are not traditionally, when we are in other types of little bit more lax environments, you don't see things like first communication from a state is, revocation of license. You see like a request for an investigation or, a meeting. And I've seen already, a couple of bang, they're coming at you and saying they're going to revoke your license, which is, right out of the gate, an aggressive stance. So I think that we've seen this before, and we'll continue to see it over the remainder of this administration.
You said something that was fantastic. You mean LO should not upload borrowers' tax returns to ChatGPT to figure out what the income is? Might be a violation of privacy laws.
That might be problematic. And it's so funny. I think OpenAI, to their credit, has done a wonderful job of making you feel like you're in this like safe little cocoon chat bubble with your personal AI assistant. That's just not the case. It's funny, we're in like tech version 1.0 of AI in general, and it's going to continue to get more advanced and more useful. But it's also, because we're in version 1.0, we don't yet know, the ramifications of some of these things, but using some basic common sense and following the rules that are starting to come down the pike. Yeah, we most certainly should.
Well, listen, AI, we can get into this whole conversation. There's, as great as it's going to be, there are going to be bad characters in this world that are going to try to leverage it and get into it and take advantage of all the data that's being uploaded into it, for sure.
Absolutely. And listen, there's only so many actual privacy options available on, ChatGPT right now. Obviously, there are AI, chatbots and things that are built specifically for companies, much smaller, closed world. But, you sign up for a pro version of ChatGPT, and all you can really do is say like, hey, don't use my data to improve the model. But that's not much by way of protection of your data.
So I'm a loan originator. I run a non-del shop, knock on the door. It's the state auditor. Like, what is that? When do they call you and say, hey, listen, I'm getting audited, or I have findings on my audit? What's the best time that you find to help a partner when they're going through an audit?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. Thing one, if you are new to a state, and you haven't yet put rigorous compliance controls in place, or haven't yet done a proactive audit of your loan files or of your processes, and you have a state knocking at your door asking to see loan files, which is usually their first step. Hey, we want to see all your origination volume or your loans, a sampling of your loans from this time period. You should probably talk to us. We should do a proactive, or someone, we should do a proactive look at what are they going to see? Let's try to get ahead of it. Really what states aren't normally coming in, or any regulator, and wanting to put you out of business. What they want is to see that you comply with the protections they have in place for consumers. So being able to say like, hey, listen, we know what you saw. We've put these various, new policies, practices in place, and we think we've remedied the issues, and, we're going to monitor the situation moving forward. It makes a big, big difference in what that final outcome of the examination would be. That's scenario number one. Scenario number two is maybe you've been in a state for a while. Maybe you feel like you fully understand what's going on in your lending landscape in that state, but all of a sudden, things have taken a turn. You have a finding you don't understand, or you think you do understand and the regulator's wrong on their stance. And that happens all the time. Either the regulator, something I run into pretty often is that the regulators don't sometimes, if you're listening to regulators, sometimes don't understand the difference between a broker's responsibility, non-delegated lenders' responsibilities, a full delegated lender's responsibility. They really don't understand the nuance there at times, and they'll try to impose requirements on, various institutions that perhaps don't apply. So I would say, getting proactive as quickly as you can to get an outside counsel involved or a compliance company involved if you feel like you don't understand what might come up, or if you're in some sort of or think you're going to enter some sort of litigious landscape with a regulator is very smart.
It's funny that you say that, because I look at it like as a different. We do see a lot of people that are rapidly growing their state licenses, right? They're going in and they're adding 15, 20, 25 licenses all within a short time frame. And I look at it, and I always tell them, what this is going to look like a year from now, right? Like, you think it's busy now, wait until a year from now when you have all this rework that you have to do and potential states coming back in. So I try to advise people to stagger it out as much as you probably can. Don't look to get the whole shovel full at that one time.
Yeah. And a lot of times we'll just be asking to see your loans for, like I said, a certain period of time. And if you've only originated one loan, perhaps that's not that big of a deal, but it is a new set of eyes on your policies, your procedures, the overarching compliance docs that you have to have in place. So you're always opening yourself up to that additional risk.
Oh, that's a great point. I mean, you really got to be looking at your licenses. Like, are you doing it for the LO that joined that maybe closes 3 to 5 loans a year in that state? And is that really worth it for you? And, business owners are super great about making that decision. I'm sure they can have that. What else is on your guys' radar right now? What else is kind of bubbling up for you quite a bit right now?
Yeah, so there's a lot of M&A activity going on. There's a lot of, and I think that impacts the broker space and the non-del space a little bit right now. It's been a tough, how many years now? It's been a tough 4 years at this point. We're all looking, been looking down the barrel of a gun, it seems, for quite a while in terms of, are we going to make profit on any loan that we originate? Are we going to be able to keep the doors open? It's been tough. And I think a lot of lenders, up until maybe recently, we're thinking like, can somebody buy me out of this mess? And so, we were starting to see a fair bit of M&A activity, and we're still seeing a little bit. I really hope, and again, we've been hoping this for about a year, but, better days are right on the horizon. Rates are going to get, improve. Supply is going to magically get better, and things will be looking up. But so M&A activity is definitely a big one. From that perspective, what I would say, the most important thing to think about, no matter what size of lender you are, is that you would go through diligence when you go through M&A activity. So what we're really seeing is people having not been proactive enough about their own diligence and walking into diligence with a third-party company and not liking the results of that diligence. So what I would say is, if this is something that you're considering, if this is ringing any bells with you, start to get proactive. What is going on behind the scenes at your company? Is compliance where it should be? What do your operations look like? What is your chain of command, and how are your people operating in that chain of command? But there are companies like mine that will do pre-diligence reviews, and we are doing things like that today to help you prep for M&A activity. So M&A is one. States ramping up in activity. We've already, sort of talked that to death, but I would say that is another big one. And that's something I'm working on a lot right now, is state activity. Unique lending products is another thing that, again, we've been seeing it for a while, for a long time in the worsening market. It was more investors. How can I diversify? How can I get every single loan that might be out there by varying my product portfolio and my investor portfolio? So it was a lot of contract review, a lot of new relationships, making sure the risk was allocated appropriately, all of those things. Today, rather than, very investor portfolio, we're looking at different products, a lot of DSCR products, a lot of, new nuanced things that lenders are looking to expand their scope with, which is great. Does open up compliance concerns, but there are lots of teams out there who can do, again, reviews of those things to make sure you get them up and running effectively.
Yeah, we see that on our side too. It's like, okay, well, we're going to roll out a DSCR product. Great. We're going to require DSCR greater than 1.25%. Okay, fair. We're going to go down to set 0.75 now. Oh, okay, that's pretty risky. But we're going to do no ratio. All right, we're trying, like sounds very familiar to something that we've done in the past. So you just want to make sure you're doing a product that is a sellable product for sure. And then now it's the DSCR second liens that's coming. So
yeah,
I will tell you one thing about the mortgage industry. We definitely know how to expand our product box when we need to.
Oh yeah, we're creative. We are artists in our own respect. Yeah, it's the same. We saw like direct to consumer pick back up, spike for a while. People trying to build out those programs, but exactly to the point of, do you have a profitable, program, or is getting into this state actually going to bring in volume? The same thing with D2C. Are you actually investing in something that is going to, in some way strengthen your bottom line, or is it going to be an investment into a pipeline and into, people and technologies that aren't ultimately going to be beneficial to you? So all things that we've been seeing, a lot of tech stuff, again, talk about AI, talk about, the various new technologies that are coming down the pipe, people trying to get out of the big behemoths and transition to smaller companies, finding maybe they don't have the right skill set. So a lot of contract review from that perspective, again, evaluating risk, but there's a lot going on. I could go on and on, but those are some of the big hitters.
Yeah, the tech piece of it, I am really concerned about some of the uses that I'm just hearing about anecdotally. And it's not so much the broker owners, it's the LO that, is trying just to figure out a way to get something done type of thing. And we got to really figure out what those controls are going to look like and how to monitor that. And a company like yourself putting policies and procedures in place for that is going to be of the utmost importance, because here's the one thing that's not going away. Consumer protection is not going away, right? At the end of the day, data breaches, like I said, consumer protection, like all that is of the utmost importance, and it should be to everybody with regards to protecting. We get a lot of sensitive data. We want to make sure that we're treating that data correctly with everybody.
That's right, and we are also, holding the keys to the American dream kingdom in our hands in many respects. And, I think that, like, you hit the nail on the head. That's not going away. I don't think anybody want to see that go away. So long as we're all singing to the same tune in a way that's going to, keep us all profitable and happy. But yeah, and something you said, I think for me, as things continue to change, as the landscape stays a little bit gray, a good example is, dual capacity. The rule obviously changed, and then we saw people go rogue, right? You have LOs on Facebook saying, "Hey, realtors, guess what? You want to make more money? Now we can pay you for referrals." Like, that's not the change that was made. I guess my word of caution is, as things shift, and they are shifting. I mean, hopefully not as dramatically as it looks like they're going to shift, on the LO comp side of the world at least. But as things start to shift, as things stay a little bit gray, have somebody in your arsenal, whether it's somebody with the appropriate background on staff, whether it's partnering with a firm like Mitchell Sandler, any other of the great compliance, solutions that are out there. Make sure what is what we do know, right? So for something like
that level of service that Mitchell Sandler offers, like let's just say I sign up with you guys as a customer, and can I go to you and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about putting, this marketing campaign together." Is that something that you guys would say, this checks all the boxes?
Oh yeah. Regulatory advice is our bread and butter. You come to us and say, "Hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z." We can issue a full legal opinion. Of course, we do that. We're a law firm, but we can also do like issue spotting. Hey, did you not think about this thing? What about this thing? How does this impact your operations? How is it, impacting this rule that you're not asking about? But we're here to help you think through those things. So, issue spotting and sort of filling the gaps for you where you may not know that there are gaps that's what we do.
Well, I know that you and I spoke last week, and so where are we going to see you on the road next?
Next is I will be at NAM and I will be at MBA Annual, both in Vegas. It's going to be a great time, a lot of walking. We'll all walk 20,000 steps a day.
It's going to be a long week for both of us, for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So.
All right, Alex, how do people get a hold of you if they want to, start the idea of like, hey, I'm thinking about making a move to banker. Tell me what services are available, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, my direct email address is atemple@mitchellsandler.com. You can always find us on the website, mitchellsandler.com. But, again, I'm happy to talk to anybody, even if it's just thinking through things. You don't have to have like a really concrete question. Love to get creative and help people think how they can turn their operations into something that makes sense from a strategic and a compliance perspective.
Can't advocate enough for anyone that's thinking about going into this space to have a partner with you that helps with the compliance side of things, just to make sure you're doing everything right that you need to. It might be your first time trying it out. Just make sure you got all your ducks in a row. Like you said, you don't want to wait till the door knocks. You want to be able to give them a gift of policies and procedures and information that you're already following before that call comes. Alex, can't thank you enough for your time. Really appreciate it. And we'll look forward to the next Non-Delegated Influencers podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the Non-Delegated Influencers podcast, powered by First Funding. For more resources and episodes, visit nondeleginfluencers.com.